Based on the fantasy novels of George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones set the entertainment world ablaze with its unrivaled popularity. That's right, we're putting the spotlight on all things GOT. And we're starting with the best moments from the series. Take a look.
While these moments weren't always the easiest to watch, they helped make GOT one of the most iconic television shows of all time. Hey guys, it's Phoebe. Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're counting down the top 20 Game of Thrones moments. We'll be discussing the most memorable and iconic moments from the phenomenon that is Game of Thrones. If you're not all caught up, however, watch out because spoilers are coming. Number 20. Bran catches Jamie and Cersei.
I want you to promise me no more climbing.
I promise.
Do you know what?
What?
You always look at your feet before you lie. Run and find your father. Tell him the king is close.
The first episode of Game of Thrones sets the tone for the rest of the show in many ways, and one thing it teaches us is to expect the unexpected, even when it comes to main characters. Arguably the first big twist occurs when Bran Stark, who loves climbing, scales a broken tower in Winterfell, and catches siblings Jaime and Cersei Lannister in the act.
Stop! Stop!
Bran's intrusion leads Jaime to push him off the tower, permanently crippling him and changing both of their lives forever.
The things I do for love.
Number 19. The Birth of Dragons.
Don't ask me to stand aside as you climb on that pyre. I won't watch you burn.
Is that what you fear?
Daenerys overcomes many setbacks on her long road back to Westeros, but one of the biggest is the loss of her husband Khal Drogo and their unborn child. Distraught, Dany burns Drogo's body, along with the witch responsible, and her 3 dragon eggs. When she steps into the fire herself, it's naturally worrying, but seeing her emerge from the ashes alive and unharmed is amazing. And it's not the only miracle. The eggs have hatched, and Daenerys Stormborn is now the mother of dragons. Number 18. The White Walkers knock down the wall. For most of the series, the threat of the White Walkers looms in the background. They come crashing through the forefront, however, in the 7th season's final moments. Seeing the Night King swoop in on his undead dragon as the Night's Watch and wildlings panic is terrifying enough, but watching the Icy Monarch bring down the wall had everyone soiling their pants. The dread we felt as the endless waves of whites shambled through into the 7 kingdoms still hits us every time. Number 17. Jaime and Brienne's bath.
There's another tub.
This one suits me fine.
Jaime Lannister doesn't endear himself to people easily. He's arrogant and sarcastic. And there's that whole screwing a sister and pushing a kid out of a window thing. Notoriously, he also killed the king he was sworn to protect.
Kingslayer, Oathbreaker, man without honor.
While recuperating from the loss of his hand in a bath with Brienne of Tarth, Jaime recounts his infamous deed, explaining that the Mad King had planned to burn down King's Landing with wildfire. Jaime's raw emotion really casts his character in a new light, elevating him beyond simply an antagonist.
But what right?
Help! The Kingslayer!
Jamie. My name's Jamie.
Number 16. The Tower of Joy.
And now it begins.
No. Now it ends.
The events surrounding this nondescript tower had the power to shake the 7 kingdoms. Through Bran's visions into the past, viewers witness Ned Stark's attempt to rescue his sister Lyanna. Although the fight outside is awesome, it's the revelation inside that had us all talking. Within the tower, Lyanna dies in childbirth, entrusting her son for Ned to protect. As many fans had suspected all along, Jon Snow isn't Ned's bastard at all, but the son of Lyanna and Rhaegar Targaryen, making him the heir to the Iron Throne.
Promise me, Ned. Promise me.
Number 15. Dany saves the expedition beyond the wall. When Jon leads an expedition beyond the wall to capture a white, the odds are stacked against them. The group end up surrounded by the army of the undead, with whites wearing them down. All hope seems lost, until who should appear but Dany and her dragons. The soaring music and spreading flames are enough to lift anyone's spirits, but the moment is tinged with sadness too, as the Night King manages to kill Viserion with an ice spear, something that will lead to plenty of headaches later on. Number 14. Tyrion's trial.
I'm guilty of being a dwarf.
You're not on trial for being a dwarf.
Oh, yes I am. I've been on trial for that my entire life.
It's courtroom drama at its best. When the most famous dwarf in Westeros is tried for the murder of King Joffrey, he suffers through a parade of witnesses misconstruing his words and, in the case of his former lover Shae, outright lying. As painful as it is to watch, it's supremely satisfying to see Tyrion's rage boil over.
I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you. I would gladly give my life to watch you all swallow it.
He rightly calls out everyone there for scapegoating him just because he's different, and manages to throw a wrench in his father's plans while he's at it. Bravo, Tyrion.
I demand a trial by combat.
Number 13. Hold the door.
Hold the door!
When Bran decides to take a solo trip into the past without his mentor, the Three-Eyed Raven, the results are disastrous. The Night King marks him, and the dead attack their hideout. As Bran watches a young Hodor in the past, while also controlling Hodor in the present, past Hodor collapses. Mira's words, which Bran is overhearing in the present, get stuck in young Hodor's head, traumatizing him forever, as Hold the Door gradually becomes Hodor. Few deaths in the series are as heartbreaking or mind-bending as this one.
Hodor! 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 Hodor!
Number 12. The Battle of Blackwater. While Game of Thrones had had a few battle scenes before, none of them were to the scale or length of this one, and it absolutely blew us away.
Get down!
With King's Landing under threat from Stannis Baratheon's forces in Blackwater Bay, Tyrion devises a desperate strategy to use wildfire against the ships and hold the line at the Mudgate. The spectacular wildfire explosion is accompanied by intense fighting on shore, as well as some surprising betrayals, and an ending that had even Cersei on the edge of her seat.
Father.
The battle is over. We have won.
Number 11. Jon Snow's death and resurrection.
For the watch.
Jon Snow grows a lot during the show, developing from a brooding teenager into a real leader, and Westeros' best hope against the White Walkers. And then he's murdered by his own men for siding with the wildlings against the undead. Jon's death broke the internet and left fans heartbroken, so the elation we felt when Melisandre brought him back to life was pretty spectacular. It's enough to make you want to become a follower of the Lord of Light, or at least worship Jon Snow. Don't forget though, he's not a god.
I'm not a god. I know that. I saw your pecker. What kind of god would have a pecker that small?
Number 10. Joffrey's death.
Your Grace. It's nothing.
Born from the incestuous union of Jamie and Cersei Lannister, Joffrey Baratheon ruled over the Seven Kingdoms like the spoiled, sadistic child he was. At his wedding, he's at his absolute worst, delighting in humiliating his uncle Tyrion to everyone's discomfort. Just as his antics reach new depths of loathsomeness, his wine is poisoned and he chokes to death at last.
Idiots, help your king! Move away!
After what he put everyone through, the insufferable Slimebag's death was so cathartic, it had fans praising the old gods and the new. Number 9. Jon kills Dany.
When I was a girl, my brother told me it was made with 1,000 swords from Aegon's fallen enemies.
Daenerys' story arc began and ended tragically. Some fans felt that, despite all of the foreshadowing that supported Dany's Mad Queen story arc, this plot twist felt anticlimactic. However, no one can deny the shocking nature of the moment when Jon plunges his dagger into her heart. Following Tyrion's counsel, Jon ultimately realizes that Dany poses a threat, not only to him and his family, but also the entirety of Westeros, from the lordship to the common folk. In a moment as tragic as it was shocking, Jon finally puts an end to Dany's tyranny once and for all.
You are my queen. Now and always.
Number 8. Ned Stark's beheading. Ned Stark is arguably the most honorable character in the series, so it's heartbreaking when his attempts to do the right thing, namely exposing Cersei's affair with Jaime and removing Joffrey from power, are rewarded with betrayal and imprisonment. Yet, right up until those final moments, there was still hope he'd be spared and join the Night's Watch. Until, well, Joffrey.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
Ned's death was a definitive moment and game changer for the show, letting the audience know that being the good guy, and a protagonist to boot, did not guarantee survival. Number 7. Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain.
Don't leave me alone in this world.
Never.
It's easy to root for the charismatic Oberyn Martell as Tyrion's champion against Gregor the Mountain Clegane, and not just because Tyrion's life was at stake. Not since Ned Stark had a character endeared us to them so quickly. Although Oberyn manages to best the massive killer, his quest to make his opponent admit to raping his sister and killing her children leads him to leave the mountain alive too long.
You raped her! You murdered her! You killed her children! Say it. Say her name. Say it!
The hulking monster's revenge is one of the series' most visceral and brutal deaths. Number 6. Arya kills the Night King.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
While the Battle of Winterfell is chock full of amazing moments, we had to give it to Arya. Despite the Defenders' best efforts, the Army of the Dead quickly overruns Winterfell. With the Night King bearing down on Bran Stark, Arya leaps in out of nowhere, only to be caught in midair. In a neat move, she switches hands with her Valyrian steel dagger and stabs him in the gut, destroying his army of the undead. Seeing Arya's training culminate in her saving the world was incredibly satisfying. Number 5. Daenerys destroys the Lannister troops.
We can hold them off.
Despite returning to Westeros with a massive army, Daenerys Targaryen meets with several early losses in her contest with Cersei over the Iron Throne. However, the tide starts to turn when Daenerys decides to attack the Lannister army on its way back to King's Landing after sacking Highgarden. Seeing the Dothraki horde in battle with Daenerys on her dragon is absolutely awe-inspiring. While it's hard fought, and Bronn with that scorpion makes a credible threat, it's still a pretty one-sided battle, and it's great to see Daenerys get this victory. Number 4. Cersei blows up the Sept.
The trial will begin shortly.
Cersei is not here. Tommen is not here. Why do you think they are not here?
If the accused is not here, she will be tried regardless.
Although Cersei's walk of shame is incredibly iconic, we'd argue that her greatest moment of triumph is even more so. While the aforementioned walk partially atones for her sins in the eyes of the faith militant, she's still scheduled for trial in the Sept of Baelor. However, Cersei is a no-show, and a gorgeous musical montage slowly builds to the revelation that she set casks of wildfire underneath it, leading to a massive fiery grain explosion that disintegrates her rivals and puts the lioness back on top. Number 3. Hardhome. In the books, Hardhome took place off-screen, so to speak, so for the first time, both sides of the fandom were united in shock during this battle. Jon Snow's attempt to forge an alliance with the wildlings in their village Hardhome is successful, but the dead choose that moment to attack. The tense, thrilling battle is a curb stomp for the living, though Jon does manage to kill a White Walker. The Night King raising the dead as the survivors escape still gives us chills. Number 2. The Battle of the Bastards. It's been called one of the greatest episodes in TV history. The Battle of the Bastards pits Jon's forces against Ramsay Bolton's for control of the North. Initially, Jon's army seems well prepared, but Ramsay's cruel murder of Rickon leads Jon to commit prematurely. The result is a desperate battle that quickly becomes a slaughter. It's only the timely intervention of Sansa and Littlefinger, of all people, that saves the day. Gory, glorious, and gorgeously cinematic. At times all at once, the Battle of the Bastards is arguably the show's best battle. Before we get to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Dracarys.
The last thing you're ever going to see is a Stark smiling down at you as you die.
Number 1. The Red Wedding. How could it have been anything else? Sure, he did it for love, but Robb's decision to break his promise to marry one of Walder Frey's daughters was short-sighted at best. To try to make up for it, he arranges to have his uncle marry one of the Frey girls. However, Walder is a spiteful man, and with Roose Bolton, he has Robb, his mother, his wife, his unborn child, and his men murdered. Robb! The shock of the Red Wedding was like an asteroid hitting pop culture. It was a moment that made the series, and completely changed the course of events, even though it was so hard to watch.
The Lannisters send their regards.
Game of Thrones captivated audiences like no other show before it, and it was all thanks to the stunning production design and the epic storytelling. Those stories, by the way, came with their fair share of twists and turns. Why, just watch this.
Even for a show known for its surprising twists, these were still pretty unexpected. Hey guys, it's Phoebe. Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 biggest Game of Thrones twists. We'll be looking at 10 of the most surprising plot twists from the entire series run of Game of Thrones. And yes, we will be including stuff that was hinted at along the way. Spoilers ahead. Number 10. Peter betrays Ned. Peter's betrayal of Ned is one of the show's most important moments, not just in terms of plot, but in terms of tone. Until this, we believed that Ned would successfully dethrone Joffrey.
King Joffrey and the Queen Regent request your presence in the throne room.
King Joffrey?
King Robert is gone. The gods give him rest.
And everything pointed to that outcome. A dramatic standoff, the presence of the City Watch, and Robert's sealed letter. But then everything goes to hell, and Peter holds a knife to Ned's throat.
I did warn you not to trust me.
It was a shocking twist, but it was a twist with realistic progression. Peter even mentions his prior warning.
But Baelish, perhaps I was wrong to distrust you.
Distrusting me was the wisest thing you've done since you climbed off your horse.
We should have seen it coming, but we didn't expect it because we all thought the good guy would win. This scene proved that honor doesn't matter, and it trained us on how to approach Game of Thrones. Number 9, But I Do Know. Joffrey's death is rich with dramatic material and unbelievable twists. First, it was the death itself that literally came out of nowhere. One moment Joffrey was drinking at his wedding, and the next he was dead in his mother's arms. Blame was immediately placed on Tyrion, but the mystery didn't last long. 2 episodes later, Olenna dropped a bombshell by revealing to Marjorie that Tyrion was innocent.
You don't think I'd let you marry that beast, do you?
I don't understand. Who?
Don't you worry yourself about all that.
And that it was she who poisoned Joffrey. And if things were still a little muddy, Olenna straight up tells Jamie in season 7 and goes out like a boss. Joffrey's death was one of the most shocking moments on the show, and to see it come from Olenna Tyrell was a total but not unwelcome surprise.
Tell Cersei. I wanted to know it was me.
Number 8. Jon kills Dany.
When I was a girl, my brother told me it was made with 1,000 swords from Aegon's fallen enemies.
Daenerys' story arc began and ended tragically. Some fans felt that, despite all of the foreshadowing that supported Dany's Mad Queen story arc, this plot twist felt anticlimactic. However, no one can deny the shocking nature of the moment when Jon plunges his dagger into her heart. Following Tyrion's counsel, Jon ultimately realizes that Dany poses a threat, not only to him and his family, but also the entirety of Westeros, from the lordship to the common folk. In a moment as tragic as it was shocking, Jon finally puts an end to Dany's tyranny once and for all.
You are my queen. Now and always.
Number 7. Sansa and Arya kill Littlefinger. For 7 seasons, Littlefinger was one of the smartest and most political characters on the show. His allegiances were cloudy, and he certainly wasn't above betraying Ned or killing Joffrey. But all of his scheming ended with 2 sisters in Winterfell, of all places. After Littlefinger attempts to plot Sansa against Arya, we believe that Arya will face some severe punishment.
Are you sure you want to do this?
However, they actually had a little scheme of their own, and Sansa surprisingly turns to Littlefinger to accuse him of murder and treason.
How do you answer these charges, Lord Baelish?
It's certainly gratifying, but what makes it even better is the image of the slimy Littlefinger crying and begging in front of the court. The Stark sisters finally avenged their father's death, and it was both immensely satisfying and completely unpredictable. Number 6. Oberyn's death. Everything was going to end so well. Oberyn would kill the Mountain and avenge his family, and Tyrion would be found innocent of Joffrey's death. Of course, Game of Thrones isn't about things ending well. Rather surprisingly, Oberyn actually beats the Mountain. But then he gets greedy. As Oberyn tries to uncover the truth about Elya's murder, the Mountain trips him, gouges out his eyes, and crushes his head like a melon. And with that, Oberyn fails to avenge his family, and Tyrion is sentenced to death. It's a beautiful bit of storytelling, as it perfectly blends an unpredictable but understandable outcome, a shocking death, a major cliffhanger, and a massive shift in the story's direction.
You're hereby sentenced to death.
Number 5. Hold the door. No one really gave any thought as to why Hodor only said Hodor. We all thought it was just one of his character traits, but with this reveal, it was turned into one of the story's most beautiful and tragic moments. While Mira escapes the Three-Eyed Raven's cave with Bran, she orders Hodor to hold the door from the attacking Whites.
Hold the door!
Bran then unintentionally links the past and present and makes stable boy Willis suffer a seizure.
Hold the door!
As this is happening, he sees his own future and yells "hold the door" until the words slur together to become Hodor. Game of Thrones isn't always an emotional show, but we were crying buckets with this heartbreaking reveal.
Hodor! 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 Hodor!
Number 4. Jon Snow's assassination. This is yet another example of dire but realistic consequences surprisingly coming to fruition. We know Jon's motives are pure, but he still betrayed the Night's Watch by allowing the Free Folk to enter the Seven Kingdoms. To pay for his betrayal, the Night's Watch deem Jon a traitor and stab him to death while they chant for the Watch.
For the Watch.
It's a crushing moment and a brilliantly shocking twist, but it also comes from a place of understanding. We knew Jon had to suffer the consequences. We just didn't want to believe it.
For the Watch.
Jon's death was one of the show's most iconic scenes, and easily its biggest cliffhanger. Even the book readers didn't know the outcome of this one. Number 3. Jon Snow is Aegon Targaryen. R+L=J was one of the biggest and most popular fan theories surrounding A Song of Ice and Fire. Fans have been theorizing about this for decades, and wouldn't you know it, it's actually true. The truth is revealed in the season 6 finale when Bran sees Ned at the Tower of Joy. It's here that we learn Jon Snow was born to Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen, and that Ned raised him as his own bastard child.
Promise me, Ned.
Not only did this twist legitimize decades worth of fan theory, but it also completely upended the show and took it in an entirely new direction. Game of Thrones and its characters were never the same after Jon's true lineage was revealed.
I've never begged for anything. But I'm begging you. Don't do this. Please.
Number 2. Ned's execution. When it comes to Game of Thrones, few scenes are as important as Ned's execution. Even those who have never watched the show probably know about Ned's death. It's just ingrained in popular culture at this point. If Peter's betrayal taught us how to approach Game of Thrones, then Ned's execution legitimized its uncompromising nature.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
We understand why Ned was ordered to die, yet we never believed that it would actually happen. Surely something or someone would intervene. But nope, Ned's head is lopped off and the show lost both its main protagonist and one of the few honorable men. With Ned's death, Game of Thrones declared itself an unbending tour de force that wasn't afraid to take major narrative risks. Number 1. The Red Wedding. Of course it's the Red Wedding. How could it not be the Red Wedding? The slaughter of the Starks is arguably the defining moment of the entire series, the scene that encapsulates everything good and daring about the story. It's a tragic but realistic culmination of various storylines. It eliminates a swath of beloved heroes in brutal fashion, it's traumatic as hell, and of course, it's completely and totally unexpected. In fact, it was so surprising that it spawned countless reaction videos, many of which went viral, and were shown on national talk shows. Game of Thrones was never the same after the Red Wedding, both in terms of its story and popularity.
Like many TV series out there, Game of Thrones also had its own batch of abandoned plots. So what do you think? Would you have liked to have seen any of these storylines on the show?
If we forget where we've been and what we've done, we're not men anymore. Just animals.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 abandoned Game of Thrones storylines.
The North remembers.
For this list, we'll be looking at plotlines and characters that disappeared or were never fully explained on HBO's fantasy series. Which storyline are you still waiting on answers for? Number 10, Ellaria Sand.
Don't leave me alone in this world.
Never.
At first, Oberyn Martell's partner seemed to be stepping up as a major character. The show didn't necessarily adapt the book's series Dawn storyline very well, but it does show Ellaria taking control of the mighty kingdom and becoming an ally to Daenerys Targaryen when she arrives in Westeros.
Vengeance. Justice.
Fire and blood.
Unfortunately, that alliance wouldn't last long. Ellaria and her daughter Tyrion are captured by Cersei in Season 7 and suffer a pretty terrible fate. Although Tyrion is doomed, Cersei's plan is to keep Ellaria alive.
Your daughter will die here in this cell. And you will be here watching what she does. You'll be here the rest of your days.
But we're still wondering what happened to her years after the show ended. Was she killed like many others when Daenerys sacked King's Landing? Or did she survive to be taken back to Dawn and face punishment for usurping the previous prince?
You're not a Dornishman. You're not our prince.
Number 9, Thorne's White Hand.
What's he got there?
To me, Ghost. Bring it here.
Got to be good.
Season 1 was pretty light on White Walker activity, building towards bigger confrontations down the line. Jon Snow's first brush with the terrors beyond the wall comes when the bodies of missing Night's Watchmen are discovered. When one of them rises as a White to attack Lord Commander Jeor Mormont, Jon saves the man's life. This event causes Mormont to send Alliser Thorne, Castle Black's Master-at-Arms, to King's Landing in order to present the White's hand to King Joffrey as a warning.
That should get young Joffrey's attention. And it puts 1,000 leagues between you and Thorne.
However, we never got this scene, nor was it ever mentioned again. While Thorne was likely met with skepticism as he was in the books, this still feels like a narrative thread the show just dropped. Number 8, Robin Arryn.
Mummy, I want to see the Bear Man fly.
It was pretty easy to dislike Robin Arryn when we first met him, but there's no denying that he ruled over one of the most important castles in the show. Though his young age and extremely sheltered upbringing meant he was never really in charge, he still lends his army to Sansa Stark during a crucial battle in Season 6.
She's my cousin. We should help her.
That was my instinct as well.
This army also helps during the Long Night and the sack of King's Landing, but Robin Arryn himself isn't seen again until the show's finale. We never got to see him react to Littlefinger's death, or the fact that Littlefinger had been responsible for the death of Robin's parents. Considering how much Robin trusted Littlefinger, this was a definite missed opportunity.
Take charge of your life, for as long as it lasts. That is what it means to be Lord of the Vale.
Number 7, Sir Ilyn Payne.
Is it him there making you shake? He frightens me too. Look at that face.
Arya Stark had many names on her special list, most of which got crossed off by her or someone else's hand. But there's one name that was seemingly forgotten about by her, Sir Ilyn Payne.
Sir Ilyn! Bring me his head!
The royal executioner was the one who chopped Arya's father's head off. Although he was under Joffrey's orders, that was more than enough to earn her wrath.
Ilyn Payne. The Hound. Joffrey. Cersei. Ilyn Payne.
However, the character disappeared after the show's second season. It's possible that Ilyn was written out due to his actor, Wilko Johnson, undergoing cancer treatment. Thankfully, Johnson pulled through, but Ilyn's presence was relegated only to passing mentions from that point forward.
I'd never let them execute you. Is that what you fear?
Never let Ilyn Payne take you ahead. You're a Lannister.
Number 6. White babies. Game of Thrones is home to a lot of despicable characters, though Craster makes an excellent case for the worst.
Who's this little girl? You're prettier than half my daughters.
The wildling has multiple daughter wives, though he sacrifices each son to the White Walkers to earn safety, a chilling fact learned by Jon in the show's second season. However, what happens to these babies wasn't shown until season 4, when we saw one of them turned by the Night King. It was a great WTF moment, but it ultimately went nowhere. Are we meant to believe the Night King's generals in season 8 are Craster's sacrifice to children? How did all of them grow so quickly? Sadly, it was in the nature of the White Walkers to be mysterious, so we never got answers. Number 5. Kaith.
Do I know you?
I know you.
Dany and company met many odd characters during the Karth storyline of Season 2, though none of them captivated us as much as Kaith. While she only appeared in 2 episodes, she piqued our interest through her always masked face and prophecies about Daenerys.
They shall come day and night to see the wonder born into the world again. And when they see, they shall lust. For dragons are fire made flesh, and fire is power.
We couldn't help but want to see more of her so that we could unravel her mystery. Her mystical abilities and the fact that she hailed from Ashai, Melisandre's birthplace, and the location Dany's dragon eggs came from made us think that she might play a pivotal role. But that wasn't the case. When the Karth storyline came to an end, we never heard from her again. And we still want to know more.
Will you betray her again?
Never.
Number 4. Essos.
Odraz mi machan daor. Iedereen non machan. Jevi kanontito porzo gurutari machan.
Westeros' neighbouring continent played a vital part for a majority of the show. Bringing peace and ending slavery in its cities was a driving force of Daenerys' character development, and she was, by far, at her most interesting when she was enacting vengeance against its rulers.
Dracarys.
But as soon as she was able to return home, the so-called breaker of chains apparently forgot all about her good work there. We know there was more important conflicts for the show to focus on, but they could still have given us a few scenes there to show what happened to Meereen, Astapor and Yunkai in Dany's absence. We would have even taken a scene of Dany receiving news via Raven, but nothing was ever given.
In veli basma tetostaor. In vrapa tolvio vio ninrontirederat. Tolvrio pregelat.
Number 3. The Faceless Men in Westeros.
What do you want?
A man has a thirst. A man does not drink for a day and a night. A boy could make a friend.
First appearing fully in Season 2, the enigmatic Jaqen H'ghar immediately drew us in with hints of his assassination organization. So we were delighted to see the character again in Season 5, along with the headquarters of the Faceless Men, the House of Black and White.
You said there was no Jaqen H'ghar here.
There isn't. A man is not Jaqen H'ghar.
Well, who are you then?
No one. And that is who a girl must become.
However, there's still so much we don't know. For instance, how did this skillful Jaqen get captured in King's Landing? And why did the Faceless Men send him to Westeros in the first place? We can't even be sure that Season 2 Jaqen and Season 5 Jaqen are the same person, or if he even exists. Hell, they could be different characters using the same face. But when Arya left Braavos, we had to say goodbye to those questions.
Finally, a girl is no one.
A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell. And I'm going home.
Number 2. Dorne.
I never realized you had such respect for Dorne.
The show's handling of the Dorne storyline in Season 5 was justifiably criticised, but that doesn't mean we wanted it to disappear. But that's basically what happened.
Kill us! Get it over with!
In Season 7, Arya is captured while on the way to collect the rest of her army for Daenerys. After that, no further attempts are made to bring the army into the fold, by anyone. And they would have been very useful when, you know, a massive army of the dead showed up. Following Arya's capture, the only news we hear is of an unnamed Dornish prince supporting Dany, who's then present at Tyrion's trial in the series finale. A sad end to what should have been the most unique of the Seven Kingdoms. Number 1. Daario Naharis.
Your Grace, allow me to present the captains of the Second Sons. Miro Bravos, Prendal Negesen, and
Daario Naharis.
We talked about Essos, but Daario Naharis deserves his own entry. Originally a lieutenant for the sellswords, the Second Sons, Daario kills the group's leaders to join Daenerys' cause.
The Second Sons are yours, and so is Daario Naharis. My sword is yours, my life is yours, my heart is yours.
We love a mercenary with a soft spot, and Daario quickly became one of Dany's most interesting allies, as well as her romantic interest. But when Dany leaves Essos, she doesn't take Daario with her. And one of the biggest disappointments of Essos' absence in the show's later seasons was not seeing how Daario temporarily ruled Meereen in her stead. There's an alternate reality where Dany never left, and we got to see them rule the city, bringing positive change to the rest of Essos. But we guess that's what fanfiction is for.
Farewell, Daario Naharis.
If you've been watching these videos and thought to yourself, well, I've seen these actors in something else. Well, 1, you're not wrong, and 2, it's likely you saw many of them in some major Marvel movies. So, let's find out who's crossed the line between Game of Thrones and the MCU.
Are the faceless men or Skrulls involved here? Or both? Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we'll be counting down 10 actors who have been in Marvel and Game of Thrones. For this list, we'll be looking at the performers who have appeared in properties based on Marvel Comics, as well as the TV show Game of Thrones. There may be spoilers for both ahead, so take care. Number 10, David Bradley, Captain America, the First Avenger.
My honored guests, be welcome within my walls and at my table.
Actor David Bradley is best known among Game of Thrones fans for playing the vile Walder Frey, who helps orchestrate the infamous Red Wedding. However, the veteran actor also had a small and far more palatable role in the first Captain America film.
I think that you are a man of great vision, and in this way we are much alike.
I am nothing like you.
Bradley played an unnamed churchkeeper in Norway, charged with the protection of the Tesseract. He ultimately fails in this mission as the Cosmic Cube is discovered by Hydra and Red Skull, and he's executed. Both characters may end up dead, but one definitely deserved it more. Number 9, Ed Skrein, Deadpool. There have been several notable recastings in Game of Thrones, but one of the most jarring is that of Daario Naharis.
I have no interest in slaves. A man cannot make love to property.
The first actor to play the character was Ed Skrein, who brought an undeniable charm and swagger to the character. His appearance in Deadpool had plenty of swagger too, but very little charm.
You should thank me. Apparently I made you immortal. I'm actually quite jealous.
Skrein plays Francis, aka Ajax, the villain who both gives the titular wisecracking anti-hero his powers and disfigures him through torture, leading to Deadpool's vengeful rampage. We do have to commend Skrein for being able to make us love him in one role and hate him in another.
For it to work, we need to subject you to extreme stress.
Number 8, Richard E. Grant, Logan.
I'm offering you the possibility of redemption.
Another experienced actor, Richard E. Grant plays the villain in Logan, Dr. Xander Rice, a man who not only experiments on children, but who also helps orchestrate the near extinction of mutants through genetically modified foods.
You have no right to an opinion.
In Game of Thrones, Grant plays a similarly ill-tempered but far more comedic role, or roles, as Isambaro, the leader of a theatre troupe in Braavos, who perform a bawdy and thoroughly inaccurate play about the events of the show until that point. Grant plays caricatures of Robert Baratheon and Tywin Lannister within the play itself. Talk about range.
Cast the day I named you.
Number 7, Natalie Dormer, Captain America, the First Avenger.
It's not an easy thing admitting to yourself what you really are. It's taken me a while.
In Game of Thrones, Natalie Dormer plays Marjorie Tyrell, a beautiful and savvy player who marries 2 of the kings and almost makes for a good queen. Marjorie's ambitions may be foiled by Cersei, but her skills in politics and seduction are considerable.
I read about what you did.
Oh, yeah.
Her role in Marvel is similarly entrancing, as she has a small part as Private Lorraine, a military secretary who manages to briefly pull Captain America's eyes from his primary love interest, Peggy Carter, thanks to some flattery over his recent heroism and a rather forward kiss.
They're not here.
Number 6, Maisie Williams, The New Mutants. Maisie Williams is set to star in the super delayed Marvel film, The New Mutants. Williams' character is Rane Sinclair, also known as Wolfsbane, a Scottish mutant who has powers similar to a werewolf.
All of you are dangerous. That's why you're here.
How well she plays the character is currently unknown due to the aforementioned delays, but her portrayal of Arya Stark on Game of Thrones was exceptional.
I'm getting into this castle one way or another.
Her journey from rebellious daughter to wannabe killer to assassin to incredible warrior was a joy to watch. We can only hope that Williams brings the same intensity, wit, and physical skill to her Marvel role too.
Guess I've changed.
Number 5, Sophie Turner, X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
He loves you, you know that. That bothers you? Men do stupid things for women.
As Sansa Stark on Game of Thrones, Sophie Turner grew up over the course of the show, along with her character. Sansa begins the series as a naive young girl whose many hardships and time spent as a pawn in the game of others help forge her into a formidable player in her own right.
It's no animal. It's a man.
She plays a different sort of formidable character in the X-Men films as Jean Grey, a powerful psychic mutant and member of the younger generation of the titular group. Both Turner's characters also handle their power in different ways.
Stay away from me!
Number 4, Iwan Rheon, Inhumans. Game of Thrones has some truly hateable characters, and one of its most reviled is Ramsay Bolton, played by Iwan Rheon.
Kneel before me, surrender your army, and proclaim me the true Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North.
Ramsay's wanton, gleeful sadism and numerous crimes against everyone around him, along with Rheon's charismatic performance, helped make the character a great villain even by the show's impressive standards.
If we were on Earth, we would have an entire, glorious planet to live on, thrive on!
Rheon played another antagonist, Maximus, on the short-lived Marvel show, Inhumans. Although Maximus is another man who executes a coup against his family to rise in power, he's a far more sympathetic character than Ramsay, even if they do both meet rather grisly ends.
Open the door, don't leave me in here!
Number 3, Richard Madden, The Eternals.
3 victories don't make you a conqueror.
It's better than 3 defeats.
Richard Madden got his big break on Game of Thrones, portraying the young wolf himself, Robb Stark, whose quest to avenge his father and defeat the Lannisters ended in tragedy. Nevertheless, during Madden's time on the show, his portrayal of a young man dealing with the pressures of command was compelling.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Icarus, Richard Madden.
Although Madden's role as Icarus in The Eternals is still forthcoming, we look forward to seeing his talents be complemented by the character's numerous powers, and we're confident that he'll be able to stand out among the impressive ensemble cast, since he already has experience in that.
Escort Lord Karstark to the dungeon. Hang the rest.
Mercy, sire! I didn't kill anyone! I only watched for the guards!
Number 2, Kit Harington, The Eternals.
And I can also confirm, playing a non-Eternal character in this film named Dane Whitman is Mr. Kit Harington.
Richard Madden won't be the only Stark brother to be in The Eternals. Kit Harington will also be joining the cast as Dane Whitman, aka Black Knight. While not much is known of the film at present, Black Knight in the comics is portrayed as an expert swordsman, and Harington certainly fits the bill there, given his many impressive sword fights in Game of Thrones. As Jon Snow, Harington captured the character's reluctance to command, despite his ability to inspire loyalty, as well as his physical prowess, and helped make the character one of the most iconic from an already stellar cast.
Battles have been won against greater odds.
Before we unveil our top pick, here's some honorable mentions.
I was adopted by a group of monks. There I learned how to summon my chi. I'm the immortal Iron Fist.
You know the rules about cell phones in my dojo.
I need you to be perfect today. Can you do that for me?
Number 1, Peter Dinklage, X-Men Days of Future Past, and Avengers Infinity War.
If only we were trapped in a castle, in the middle of winter with nowhere to go.
It's only fitting that our top pick goes to the only entry on our list to appear in 2 entirely different roles.
Well, now we are the Neanderthal.
In addition to playing Tyrion Lannister, the quick-witted and unfairly maligned dwarf on Game of Thrones, the actor also portrays Bolivar Trask, the man responsible for the creation of the robotic Sentinels who menace the X-Men, as well as Atri, a disfigured king of the dwarves, who helps Thor forge his new weapon in Avengers Infinity War. All 3 are powerful men who cast big shadows, though one of them is a bit more literal about it.
Did it have a name? Stormbreaker.
Yeah, it's a bit much. One of the things people love most about Game of Thrones are the battles. And frankly, it's not hard to see why. I mean, they're pretty epic on every scale. Need a reminder? Well, prep the battlefield and check these out.
You want envelope-pushing battle scenes? Go to HBO. Hey guys, I'm Rebecca from WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 greatest Game of Thrones battles. That means we're looking at the most epic Game of Thrones battles based on the scale of the production and the narrative significance of the conflict. Obviously, a spoiler alert is now in effect. Let's get to it. Number 10, the Second Siege of Meereen.
We obviously didn't communicate clearly. We're here to discuss your surrender, not mine.
Daenerys' time in Slaver's Bay was filled with confrontations both small and large. From the sack of Astapor to the First Siege of Meereen, to the many battles of the Uprising in Meereen. But arguably the most memorable battle came when the Masters of Astapor and Yunkai attacked Meereen in support of the Sons of the Harpy, while Daenerys was missing. Luckily, the Mother of Dragons returned to her city in time to tilt the conflict in her favor. Though the city was damaged and many civilians killed in the conflict, the battle resulted in Dany maintaining complete control in Slaver's Bay, eventually renaming it the Bay of Dragons.
When they come forward with notions of retribution or ideas about returning the slave cities to their former glory, remind them what happened when Daenerys Stormborn and her dragons came to Meereen.
Number 9, the assault on the Targaryen fleet.
Euron.
the wildly dysfunctional families in Westeros, the Greyjoys have a particularly homicidal aspect to their dynamic. Case in point, the time Euron and his crew assaulted the Targaryen fleet led by his niece Yara to capture Illyria's sand and bring her back to Cersei. It's one of the most chaotic and visceral battles on the show, and Euron's violent insanity is on full display. The battle ends with most of the fleet destroyed, Obara and Nymeria dead, Yara, Illyria, and Tyene captured, and Theon looking like a coward yet again. Number 8, the loot train attack. As if the Dothraki weren't enough of a problem, the Lannister army also had a dragon to deal with.
We can hold them off.
On their way, delivering the loot they took from Highgarden, Jaime and his Lannister army are attacked by Daenerys' forces, and the battlefield quickly becomes engulfed in flames as all hell breaks loose. Daenerys and Drogon burn through Jaime's troops and destroy much of their cargo with dragonfire in a scene that puts the destructive power of dragons on full display. Jaime nearly loses his life in an attempt to rush Daenerys, but is saved by none other than Sir Bronn of the Blackwater in the episode's closing moments. Number 7, the Battle Beyond the Wall. The plan's simple. Head beyond the wall, capture a white, and bring it to King's Landing to show Cersei that the army of the dead is a real threat. Sounds easy enough, right? Sure, the plan is a bit questionable, but it still led to some incredible moments. As the Night King watches from atop a hill with his White Walker generals at his side, our heroes are swarmed from all sides by whites. Luckily, they sent a message to Daenerys to help, and help arrived right on time. Unfortunately for Dany, the battle's biggest casualty was her dragon Viserion. But hey, at least they got that white they were after, right guys? Number 6, the Battle of King's Landing. What began as a battle quickly became a massacre. As Daenerys' forces stared down the Golden Company at the gates of King's Landing, Dany was busy destroying the Iron Fleet and the Scorpion Ballista atop the city walls. Drogon's dragonfire made quick work of Euron's ships, King's Landing's gates, and the Golden Company's troops. And the Lannister army within the city walls made the right choice by surrendering. But despite the ringing of the bells, Daenerys' rage became the loudest voice in her head. And with all her allies and advisors either dead or untrustworthy, Dany's impulses went unchecked as she destroyed the city and its people atop Drogon. Of all the large-scale action scenes in the series, this was the hardest to watch. Number 5, the Massacre at Hardhome. Just when you think winter is never gonna come, the Night King shows up and puts all doubts to rest, as Jon Snow tries to broker peace between the Night's Watch and the Wildlings. The White Walkers let loose their undead forces on the free folk settlement of Hardhome. Not so much a battle as a massacre, this incident shows the true power of Valyrian steel, as Jon manages to strike down a White Walker. Alas, as we see the Night King add the wildling corpses to his army of the dead, any sense of triumph is replaced by imminent dread. Number 4, the Battle of the Blackwater. King's Landing will never know how lucky they were to have the mind of Tyrion Lannister on their side.
Much liked my head. I don't want to see it removed just yet.
As Stannis and his army reach the Bay of Blackwater, the Lannister forces nearly crumble when the Hound flees and Joffrey cowers back to his mother. Luckily, thanks to Tyrion's careful planning and manufacturing of wildfire, not to mention Bronn's dead-eye aim, he manages to cripple the incoming fleet by setting them ablaze. Had his face cut up and no one will ever thank him for his leadership, but we all know that the true hero of the Blackwater was the so-called half-man.
The battle is over. We have won.
Number 3, the Battle of Winterfell. While some viewers may have had a hard time seeing what was actually happening, the battle between the living and dead was as harrowing and relentless as you'd expect. This was what Jon had been warning everyone about, and what much of the series had been building to. So when the dead finally arrived at Winterfell, it was a moment that was years in the making. This battle had it all, including a dragon fight. Ultimately, it wasn't Daenerys or Jon, but Arya who would defeat the Night King, effectively defeating the army of the dead single-handedly. Number 2, the Battle of Castle Black.
You're planned to die here tonight? No, sir! That's very good to hear! Draw!
We all knew the battle was coming, but who thought it was going to be this intense? The Watchers on the Wall find themselves vastly outnumbered as the Free Folk make their attack on Castle Black, accompanied by thousands of warriors and even freaking giants. With cunning and determination, Jon Snow and the Watch managed to survive the night, albeit with huge casualties on both sides. The most painful of these is, of course, Jon's former wildling lover Ygritte, who dies in his arms as the fighting reaches its conclusion. Victory has never been so empty. Number 1, the Battle of the Bastards. Not only is the fight itself utterly stunning to behold, but this is one of the few times on Game of Thrones where it truly feels like the villain gets just what he deserves.
Let's play a game. Run to your brother.
In a bid to take back Winterfell, Jon Snow and his allies take on the sadistic Ramsay Bolton and his northern army in an epic clash that stands as one of the best fantasy battles ever put to screen. Everything from the claustrophobic atmosphere of the battlefield to Jon beating the ever-loving crap out of Ramsay cements this as the most harrowing yet oddly satisfying skirmish to ever come out of Westeros. Hit him again, Jon!
Picking your favorite Game of Thrones character is perhaps harder than picking your favorite child. But there is one character that is universally beloved: Tyrion Lannister. And here's why.
I was gonna just list off a bunch of great Tyrion quotes for the intro here, but there were just way too many, so... Hey guys, I'm Rebecca from WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 Tyrion moments. That means we're singling out Game of Thrones moments involving Tyrion Lannister that were funny, inspirational, tragic, or just downright badass. As long as it left an impact, it will be included. Also, obviously, a spoiler alert is now in effect. Let's get to it. Number 10, never forget what you are. It's no surprise that after this short speech, we all fell in love with Tyrion Lannister. It comes in the very first episode of the show, when Tyrion is outside with Jon Snow.
You're Tyrion Lannister, the Queen's brother?
My greatest accomplishment. You're Ned Stark's bastard, aren't you?
He tells a brooding Snow to wear his bastard title as armor, because the rest of the world will never forget his heritage. Of course, Tyrion speaks from experience, as the rest of the world, and especially his family, demeans Tyrion for being a dwarf.
Let me give you some advice, bastard. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not.
But rather than whining about it, Tyrion embraces his so-called weakness and forges other strengths, like his quick wit and intelligence. This speech alone added depth and complexity to Tyrion's character, and it immediately made us sympathetic to his plight. It's amazing what just a few words can do.
What the hell do you know about being a bastard?
All dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes.
Number 9. Nominating Bran. In this moment, Tyrion changed the course of history in Westeros forever. When a decision must be made about who will take the Iron Throne in the show's series finale, Tyrion nominates a seemingly unlikely candidate, Bran the Broken.
And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
While it seems like a strange proposition at first, by the time he's made his case, everyone, including the audience, can't help but agree.
He is our memory, the keeper of all our stories. The wars, weddings, births, massacres, famines, our triumphs.
Bran can't father children, meaning that his successors will earn the throne instead of inheriting it, ending a centuries-long tradition of tyranny in Westeros.
Sons of kings can be cruel and stupid, as you well know. His will never torment us.
In the end, Tyrion succeeds in doing what Daenerys couldn't. He breaks the wheel.
That is the wheel our queen wanted to break.
Number 8. Getting hammered at his wedding. Tyrion's wedding was one for the ages. Well, it certainly wasn't as memorable as Joffrey's, but it was still something else. First, Tyrion gets absolutely wasted and makes a fool of himself by spilling wine and checking his teeth with a dinner plate. Then he declares himself the god of tits and wine, which we can't really argue with.
Drinking and lust. No man can match me in these things. I am the god of tits and wine.
And to top it all off, he threatens to castrate Joffrey in front of the entire reception before talking about his own small manhood.
Then you'll be f***ing your own bride with a wooden cock.
We all love witnessing a good Joffrey takedown, but we can't help but feel bad for Tyrion as the man is clearly suffering, and all he can do is drink away his problems.
A bad joke, Your Grace.
Number 7. Meeting with Daenerys and Jorah. Now, is this the best job interview ever, or what? In this scene, Tyrion talks at length with Daenerys and eventually worms his way into her service as her political advisor.
Why should I spend my time listening to you?
Because you cannot build a better world on your own. You have no one at your side who understands the land you want to rule.
And his first task sees him convincing Daenerys to banish Jorah from Meereen. It's both an uplifting and heartbreaking sequence, depending on whose point of view you value.
He claims he would kill for you and die for you, and nothing I have witnessed gives me reason to doubt him. And yet he did betray you.
For Tyrion, this is a rousing and literally life-changing moment, as he lands himself a respectable and powerful job with his new queen. But for Jorah, this is a death sentence, as he fails to earn forgiveness from the woman he loves.
You're going to need to inspire devotion, a lot of it, if you're ever going to rule across the narrow sea. But you cannot have him by your side when you do.
The morose music encapsulates the bittersweet nature of the scene, and we don't know whether we should cheer or cry. Number 6. Slapping Joffrey in the face. Tyrion slapping Joffrey will never get old. The first instance comes in the show's second episode, when Joffrey refuses to grant Ed and Catelyn his sympathies.
Oh, I can't stand the wailing of women.
The second and much more vicious slap comes in the second season after Joffrey orders the deaths of civilians and instigates a riot.
Find who did that and bring him to me! Hold on! Just kill them! Kill them all!
Joffrey was by no means a good person, so it's always satisfying to see him get his comeuppance. And it's even more satisfying to see it come from Tyrion himself.
You're talking to a king!
And now I've struck a king. Did my hand fall from my wrist?
Tyrion was one of the few people who had the guts to face Joffrey, and he was never afraid to publicly show his dissent. He may not be a fighter, but Tyrion Lannister is one of the bravest characters in the entire show. Number 5. Rooting out Pycelle. Hot damn, do we love a good scheme. In the episode What is Dead May Never Die, Tyrion successfully roots out Pycelle as Cersei's spy.
But the Queen mustn't know. I can't have her meddling in affairs that could determine the future of the realm. There's too much at stake.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, I shall be silent as the grave.
He does this with the old canary trap, giving different people different pieces of information and seeing which one gets leaked. For his trap, Tyrion tells Pycelle that Myrcella will marry Trystane Martell. Meanwhile, he tells Varys that Myrcella will marry Theon Greyjoy, and he tells Littlefinger that she will marry Robin Arryn. Cersei then confronts him about marrying Myrcella to the Martells, and Bob's your uncle.
Are you mad? The Martells loathe us.
It's a brilliant showcase of Tyrion's intelligence and cunning, and it proves that he can play the Game of Thrones with the best of them.
I told no one that I was offering her to the Dornish. No one but you.
Number 4, freeing the dragons. Tyrion knows that sometimes you just need dragons on your side. And in the 6th season episode Home, Tyrion ventures into the catacombs with Varys to meet Viserion and Rhaegal. Here, he tells them a sad story from his childhood about wanting a dragon of his own before unshackling their neck chains.
I begged him for one of you. It wouldn't even have to be a big dragon, I told him. It could be little, like me.
It's a fantastic moment as we get both a sad, introspective look into Tyrion's childhood and the amazing visual of Tyrion unchaining the dragons. They later break from the catacombs and help destroy the slavers' fleet alongside Daenerys and Drogon. It's a moment worthy of a fist pump, and it makes Tyrion look like an utter badass.
Next time I have an idea like that, punch me in the face.
Number 3, killing Tywin. The Children is one of the best episodes the show has ever produced, and Tyrion's character arc is a major reason for its acclaim. After he's freed by Jamie, Tyrion makes his way to the Tower of the Hand, where he regretfully strangles Shae with her own necklace. He then makes his way to the Privy and shoots his own father with a crossbow. It's one of the most shocking and unpredictable deaths of the show, although it comes from a place of understanding and deep tragedy. We understand why Tyrion committed patricide, but this isn't a death to be cheered. Tywin's demise was a long time coming, but it came at the expense of Tyrion's humanity.
I have always been your son.
Number 2, the Battle of the Blackwater. The Battle of the Blackwater encapsulates everything great about Tyrion. For one thing, he shows an immense amount of bravery by being there. He is not a soldier, yet he led the defense of his city. This is made even more impactful after Joffrey retreats to safety, allowing Tyrion to inspire the troops with a rousing speech.
There's our brave men knocking at our door. Let's go kill them!
He also shows strategic know-how by blowing up Stannis' fleet with wildfire.
Get down!
Oh, and then he gets his signature scar after being sliced across the face by Sir Mandon. And to top it all off, we see Tyrion at his most vulnerable, as he is denied recognition by Joffrey. He's a hero, yet no one knows it. Now, isn't that just a perfect representation of this tragic character?
The king won't give you any honors. The histories won't mention you. But we will not forget.
Oh man, I am so jazzed! That was such an epic moment in the show. All right, before we get to our number 1 pick, which is even better somehow, let's get through the anticipatory drum roll that is our honorable mentions.
A wise man once said, the true history of the world is a history of great conversations in elegant rooms.
Who said this?
Me.
From there, I'm afraid it's rather a long walk to Castle Black. I hope you enjoy the wall. I found it surprisingly beautiful, in a brutal, horribly uncomfortable sort of way.
What is the meaning of this?
Number 1, the trial speech. Is Tyrion a part of every iconic Game of Thrones scene? It certainly seems like it. Tyrion's trial is often considered one of the best sequences of the entire show, and his scathing speech became an instant classic.
I saved you. I saved this city and all your worthless lives.
Here, he lambastes the citizens of King's Landing, states that Joffrey's death gave him immense pleasure, and proudly demands a trial by combat.
I demand a trial by combat.
All of this is spoken through gritted teeth and with pure fire in his eyes. It is an acting masterclass from Peter Dinklage, and it proves that 2 minutes of drama can be more impactful than an hour of action and spectacle.
I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you. I would gladly give my life to watch you all swallow it.
Let's face it, television hasn't always been fair to women characters, usually favoring the male leads. Game of Thrones, on the other hand, well, they've got girl power to spare. So let's check out some badass moments from the women of GOT.
These ladies are made of ice and fire. Welcome to Ms. Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 badass moments from the women of Game of Thrones.
Women can't be knights.
Why not?
Tradition.
Tradition.
I don't even want to be a knight.
I'm no king, but if I were, I'd knight you 10 times over.
For this list, we'll be discussing some of the coolest moments from the women of Westeros and beyond, in which they demonstrated how awesome they are. Naturally, because this is a Game of Thrones list, there will be spoilers ahead. Number 10, Missandei's last words.
Valar Morghulis. Yes, all men must die. But we are not men.
The translator, advisor, and all-around best friend of Daenerys Targaryen, Missandei doesn't immediately strike most people as being particularly badass.
And I have seen you ignore your counselors. Because there was a better choice. One that only you could see.
After all, she's from Noth, an island full of peaceful people who, unlike the rest of the world of the series, know nothing of fighting. Nevertheless, Missandei has a quiet inner strength that comes to the forefront when Euron Greyjoy captures her, and when she's later displayed to be executed before the eyes of Daenerys and her lover Grey Worm. Missandei tells Daenerys to burn Cersei once she's gone. Dracarys! Talk about your inner fire. Number 9, Sansa wins the Battle of the Bastards. Sansa Stark is another unexpected badass lady, since she begins the series rather naive. However, time and many hardships teach her lessons and harden her into a force to be reckoned with.
You're going to die tomorrow, Lord Bolton. Sleep well.
She's a fine woman, your sister.
This all culminates with the Battle of the Bastards between the forces of her half-brother Jon and her former tormentor Ramsay Bolton. Yet Ramsay first manages to bait Jon into a literal slaughter. Thankfully, Sansa managed to save the day by rallying the Knights of the Vale to their cause through Littlefinger, though it would have been nice if she'd shared her plan beforehand. Getting to watch her witness how Ramsay gets torn apart soon afterwards by his own hounds was the cherry on top.
They're loyal beasts.
They were. Now they're starving.
Number 8, Melisandre lights the swords and trench. Melisandre is a complex and very flawed figure in Game of Thrones. Many of her decisions have been morally and legally bankrupt and have led to many deaths. What kind of person burns a child alive?
It will all be over soon, Princess.
Even so, we have to give credit where credit is due. The Red Woman was one of the MVPs of the Battle of Winterfell.
Zobriaisa se signo tuledus.
fire magic lit the blades of the Dothraki during their admittedly disastrous charge. She also managed to ignite a trench dug around the castle, keeping the undead at bay for a few precious minutes more. All that and Melisandre pointing Arya towards her destiny had us thankful that she returned to the north after all.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
Number 7. Brienne versus the Hound. Brienne of Tarth is one of a few women in Westeros who wields a weapon and fights in battle.
Said fighting was for boys.
Mine said the same. But I kept fighting the boys anyway.
Her sense of honor is greater than that of most men in the series, and it is duty that sees her try to rescue the Stark girls after promising their mother to protect them.
I will shield your back and give my life for yours if it comes to that. I swear it by the old gods and the new.
When she finds Arya with Sandor the Hound Clegane, she feels compelled to fight her apparent captor.
She's not coming with you.
She is.
Although Brienne begins the fight honorably, she quickly proves that she can be just as brutal, if not more so than the Hound, even biting part of his ear off. It's probably one of the bloodiest fights in the series that doesn't end with someone's death, and Brienne's the one who comes out on top. Number 6. Olenna Tyrell tells Jaime she killed Joffrey. The famed Queen of Thorns, Lady Olenna Tyrell is a formidable elder stateswoman whose tongue is as sharp as her mind.
I've known a great many clever men. I've outlived them all. You know why? I ignored them.
Her ability to run verbal circles around everyone she meets makes her tremendously entertaining, as do her political skills. In fact, she made one of the bigger moves by assassinating King Joffrey with poison.
War is war, but killing a man at a wedding, horrid. What sort of monster would do such a thing?
Sadly, Olenna meets her end after the Lannister forces attack her castle, leaving her prisoner. Although Jaime Lannister offers her poisoned wine, he's surprised that she downs it so quickly.
Will there be pain?
No, I made sure of that.
That's good.
The last Tyrell shocks him further by revealing her murder of Joffrey. Using her final words to instruct him to tell Cersei, she's intent on sending one final parting blow to the woman who killed her family. Lady Olenna, savage to the end.
Tell Cersei. I wanted to know it was me.
Number 5. Cersei Lannister blows up the Great Sept of Baelor. In her headlong rush to rid herself of any rivals to power, Cersei Lannister makes a grave mistake and grants power to religious extremists. This causes problems for not only her, but also the Tyrell family, with the religious leader gaining influence over the crown itself and putting them all on trial.
Let me go immediately.
You will order her to let me go. I am the queen! I am the queen! Have you lost your mind?
However, on the day of the trial, Cersei dresses in her best and stays back. With a slow-building song playing, it's revealed that she stashed wildfire beneath the Sept, where all her enemies are gathered, and has it blown up in a masterstroke move. Granted, it's still mass murder, but she does it with such flair that we can't help but kind of admire Cersei for her audacity and ambition. Number 4. Sansa and Arya Stark take down Littlefinger.
Are you sure you want to do this?
It's not what I want. It's what honor demands.
The Stark sisters rarely got along as children, and that is slow to change once they become adults. This is a fact that the infamously manipulative Peter Littlefinger Baelish is quick to take advantage of by driving a wedge between them. He does so with an incriminating letter that Sansa was forced to write.
Why did you unearth the letter Cersei made you write? To provide proof of my betrayals. To provide justification after she murders me.
However, when Arya appears to be on trial for moving against Sansa, it's revealed that the sisters have played Littlefinger.
How do you answer these charges? Lord Baelish.
Instead, he's really the one who has to answer for his many crimes, which he does when Arya finally silences him for good. Granted, Bran Stark also helped quite a bit, given that his visions refute Littlefinger's lies, but if he's content to allow his sisters the glory, then we will too. Number 3. Lyanna Mormont stabs a giant white. The young lady of Bear Island and House Mormont, Lyanna Mormont may not have hit puberty yet, but she's still incredibly badass.
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me. I might be small, Lord Glover, and I might be a girl, but I am every bit as much a northerner as you.
Indeed you are, my lady. No one is
And I don't
questioning
need your permission to defend the North.
Whip smart and possessing a tongue sharp enough to rival Lady Olenna's, Lyanna slays in just about every second she's on screen. But her crowning moment of awesome was sadly her last. During the Battle of Ice and Fire, a giant white breaks through the gates, knocking Lyanna down. Rather than stay down though, the little badass charges the massive undead creature. And when it lifts her up and slowly crushes her, Lyanna stabs it in the eye with dragon glass, killing it. You were taken too soon, Lady Mormont, but what a way to go out. Number 2. Daenerys unleashes her dragon on Jaime's army. It was only a matter of time before the Mother of Dragons herself made it onto our list. And appropriately, some of Daenerys Targaryen's best moments involve her fire-breathing scaly children. While there have been many fantastic moments that we could have chosen, from her last-minute save beyond the wall, to her freeing of the slaves with that first Dracarys,
Dracarys.
we had to go with her battle against Jaime and the Lannister army. Seeing her lead her troops from Dragonback is a grandiose spectacle, and thoroughly badass. So often, Dany is forced to play politics, but this moment is about being who she is, a dragon. Before we get to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
No!
All wildlings are liars and savages with no loyalty to anything or anyone.
I've done what I had to do to stay alive. I hate the Starks as well as you do. Let me serve you, my lord.
Do you want to be a queen?
No. I want to be the queen. I'm a free woman.
You're a free woman.
But I might be your prisoner, but I'm a free woman.
If you're my prisoner, you're not a free woman. That's what prisoner means.
And you think you're free? Give me my brother, and no more of your men will die.
You've got bigger balls than he ever did.
Number 1. Arya Stark kills the Night King.
You said I'd shut many eyes forever. You were right about that too.
Brown eyes, green eyes, and blue eyes.
Come on, you all saw this coming. Arya Stark is one of the coolest characters in Game of Thrones, and while she has many great moments during the series, like her revenge on Walder Frey, we had to give the top spot to this one. All of Arya's assassin training, all the dangers she's faced, and the faces she's taken have led to this. The Great Battle of Winterfell becomes a slaughter, with the undead nearly overrunning the castle and the Night King poised to kill Bran. Yet it's Arya who manages to sneak up on the Night King and take him out with that awesome blade drop trick. A lady? That's not her. Savior of the friggin' world and a complete badass? Now that's her.
With Game of Thrones prequel and spin-off series coming out of the woodwork, there's a good chance you're already thinking about giving the OG series a rewatch. But in case you're still on the fence, here's more reasons why you should.
How many centuries before we learn how to build cities like this again?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 reasons to rewatch Game of Thrones. For this list, we'll be looking at the reasons for revisiting the world of Westeros. You've had the chance to recover from that final season, now it's time to remember why you were so invested in the first place. If you're new to the Seven Kingdoms, come back when you're caught up. This is your spoiler warning. Which Game of Thrones moments are you most excited to rewatch? Number 10, for the world building. Based on the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, the world of Game of Thrones is rich and detailed.
House Rain was a powerful family, very wealthy, the second wealthiest in Westeros. Aren't the Tyrells the second wealthiest family in Westeros now? Of course, ambitious climbers don't want to stop on the second highest rung.
The distinct countries and kingdoms each have their own cultures, languages, religions, traditions, and politics. The families have their own complex histories.
A Lannister always pays his debt.
No. A common saying, but not their official motto.
Lords, the Lannisters.
We're still on their words.
I don't know them.
You do know them, think.
By now, you'll know your Starks from your Lannisters, the Old Gods of the Forest from the Faith of the Seven, and Westeros from Essos. And if you don't, you'll definitely do a rewatch.
What's west of Westeros?
I don't know.
No one knows. It's where all the maps stop. That's where I'm going.
Martin has created a world you can become fully immersed in. And on top of all that, there's dragons.
Dracarys.
Number 9, for the plots and characters you forgot about. As a Game of Thrones newbie, it can be a struggle to keep up with the many plot strands and character names.
Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you.
The beauty of returning with hindsight is that you can now get a firmer grasp on all of the intricacies. Who was Jon Arryn and who killed him?
She says Jon Arryn was murdered. By the Lannisters. She says the king is in danger.
She's fresh widowed, Cat. She doesn't know what she's saying.
Lysa's head would be on a spike right now if the wrong people had found that letter.
Why was Tywin at Harrenhal anyway? Who fought on what side in all of these wars they keep referencing?
He came running at me, this dumb, high-born lad, thinking he could end the rebellion with a single swing of his sword.
Being able to put names to faces is also surprisingly satisfying. This time you know who lives and who dies. You know when those big scenes are coming, and you can appreciate the little details and the early moments you forgot all about. Number 8, for the battles. Game of Thrones is a show that loves long, dialogue-heavy scenes, full of details about the characters and the politics of the world. Because of this, the big set pieces feel earned, and they always have a massive emotional impact. There are people we care about on both sides, and the show is never afraid to kill off our favourites, so the stakes are always high.
So long as I am your king, treason shall never go unpunished. Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
In the early seasons, battles were talked about rather than seen, but moments like Tyrion's speech at Blackwater still packed a punch.
This is your city Stannis means to sack. That's your gate he's ramming. If he gets in, it will be your houses he burns. Your gold he steals.
As the budget increased, so did the spectacle, and by the time you get to the Battle of the Bastards, you're experiencing something really special. Number 7, for the costumes. For fantasy shows, costume design is important, as good costuming helps us believe in the world and the characters. Game of Thrones won multiple awards for its costume designer, Michelle Clapton, and it's not hard to see why. Each beautifully detailed outfit tells a story, or reveals something about the person wearing it. In the case of major players like Cersei, Daenerys, or Sansa, a change in look marks a new chapter for their character. Even the very minor characters have their own journey. Look out for a maid of Cersei's whose style changes to mirror her mistress. Number 6, for the characters. What was the real reason that Game of Thrones became such a big hit? Was it the politics, the sex, the dragons, or just that we cared about these characters so much?
You love your children. It's your one redeeming quality, that and your cheekbones.
Despite living in a fantasy world, they feel like real people. The good guys sometimes do terrible things, and even the villains are allowed their moments of humanity.
What did my mother say exactly? Did she have urgent business with me?
She did not say, Your Grace.
The family relationships are dysfunctional, endearing, and heartbreaking by turns. There are unexpected friendships, doomed romances, a lot of darkness, but also plenty of warmth and humour.
Or do you like girls who swoon, Jon Snow? Oh, a spider! Save me, Jon Snow!
We've all got our favourites, and it's worth a rewatch just to spend time with them again, however things turned out for them in the end.
I'll teach you. I'll come when Bert's on duty and teach you. It's easy.
No.
It'll be fun.
Go. We can't.
Why not? What would they do? Lock us in cells?
Number 5, for the payoffs.
You suggested one-on-one combat, didn't you?
There's a definite satisfaction in binging a show that once made us wait weeks and years for the answers we craved. Did we always get the results we wanted? No. The ending was a case in point. But when plans work out, mysteries are solved, or justice is served, it's a thing to behold.
When people ask you what happened here, tell them the North remembers.
It's not nice to wish death on someone, even if that someone is fictional, but revenge is sweet, and Game of Thrones crosses names off lists with style.
I loved you. More than anyone.
And yet you betrayed me.
Callbacks to earlier seasons are all the sweeter on a second watch, and spotting the early clues to later events adds an extra layer of enjoyment. Number 4, to get emotional all over again. For a show that's been dismissed as nothing but tits and dragons, it's amazing how emotional it all was.
Lord of Light, show us the way!
Mother, please!
Emmy-winning performances, heartbreaking dialogue, and storylines that took us through hell and back all played their part. We invested in the characters and they went through a lot, so when families were reunited, hearts were broken or hopes were dashed, we felt those emotions right along with them.
I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you.
Any show with such a huge cultural impact will bring nostalgia with it, and it's worth it just to remember that feeling of watching for the first time. But there's also a reason that this show got us in the feels.
My real father lost his head at King's Landing. I made a choice. And I chose wrong.
Number 3, because the ending isn't as bad as you remember. The outcry of disappointment over Season 8 was too loud to be ignored, but was it really as terrible as you remember? Maybe. But there was so much anticipation and so few episodes in which to wrap up so many storylines that it was never going to satisfy everyone.
It was necessary.
Necessary? Have you been down there?
No one wanted Bran on the Iron Throne, but it kind of makes sense. Daenerys' final turn was definitely not what we wanted, but Game of Thrones was never about happy endings, and it was signposted.
I will answer injustice with justice.
Whatever you thought of that penultimate episode, it was also, dare we say it, gripping TV. We all like to scream at the screen once in a while, and there were some gems amid the wreckage of that final season. Number 2, for the water cooler moments. By the final season, Game of Thrones was a show everyone was talking about, and not just fantasy fans.
Hey, did you see Game of Thrones last night?
From the moment Sean Bean's Ned Stark got his head chopped off, we knew this was a series prepared to take risks. By the time we reached the Red Wedding, the big water cooler moments were earning front page headlines. Oberyn Martell's combat with the Mountain, the Army of the Dead at Hardhome, they just kept coming.
If they get through, everyone dies!
We watched the big deaths, long-awaited battles, and shocking twists and turns with bated breath, and couldn't wait to discuss the details the next day. Number 1, because the prequels are coming.
Winter is coming.
Game of Thrones might be over, but HBO isn't finished with the world that George R.R. Martin created. A number of spin-off series have been in discussion, and the first prequel, The House of the Dragon, is coming to our screens in 2022. Starring Paddy Considine, Emma Darcy, Olivia Cook, Matt Smith, and Rhys Evans, the series is based on Martin's book about Targaryen history, Fire and Blood. It will be set 200 years before the events in A Game of Thrones, during a turbulent period that culminated in the Dance of the Dragons. a civil war between Aegon II and his sister Rhaenyra. Sound confusing?
I thought we'd lost you. Almost.
Might be time to rewatch the original series and refresh your knowledge of Targaryen history.
I want what I came for. I want the crown he promised me.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Watch Mojo's Deep Dive. I really hope you enjoyed this special look at the awe-inspiring world of Game of Thrones. What a show. I've been Matt from Watch Mojo, and I'll see you next time.